What is up, my fellow Harley Riders? This is T-Pop here on the second channel, and today we are going to be doing a DVD and game collection one. And as you probably tell by the thumbnail, the title, and by some of the sight lines on these, we are talking about my Star Wars collection. Now, I've definitely talked about Star Wars before on throughout the history of my channel, and I really like Star Wars. It's a very entertaining franchise, in my opinion. I don't really think there's any Star Wars movies that I would say I flat out dislike or think are horrible, but uh, yeah, there are some movies that are better than others, but overall, it's probably like one of my favorite movie franchises, if not my favorite. Now, this collection isn't very big. In fact, I think I have more games than I do the actual movies, but I still think it's a decent sized collection, and yeah, not much else to say. First, we're going to start with the games and go over to the movies. And for the movies, I decided to put them in release order instead of chronological order because I feel like it'd be more fun to do it that way. But yeah, to start with the game side of things, we are starting this off with Star Wars Battlefront 1, which was released in 2004. And yeah, I really love these two games, and especially the first one. I really fucking like this one. Yeah, this is easily one of my favorite Star Wars games. Now, usually I'm not the hugest fan of these, like, first or third person shooter type games, but even I can admit that the Star Wars Battlefront games are super fucking fun. Now, I'm talking about the original ones, I'm not talking about the EA ones, because I have played the first Battlefront EA game, and I liked it, but the original ones like PS2 and stuff are much better than the EA ones, but yeah, Battlefront is a very fun little game. Anyways, here's the front of the manual and the back, which advertises another game. I don't know what it is, so. And now, on to probably one of my favorite games of all time, we have Star Wars Battlefront 2, which is even better than the first one, which was a hard feat to achieve because Battlefront 1 was already super fucking fun, but this one surpassed it. But yeah, even though this is my favorite, probably my favorite Star Wars game, actually, if I'm being honest. Well, either this or one of the future games we're going to be talking about. But yeah, I think Battlefront 2 had. Okay, I think the first game had a bit better maps, but this one has the better gameplay. It's more fast and fluid and fun, and you even get to play as the Jedis, which was super fucking badass. But yeah, even though I prefer this one, I still do revisit both of these games because even with the second one, the first one's still a lot of fun. But yeah, here is the disc and the manual, which let's get that out. The back doesn't advertise anything. Or wait, is this the back on the regular manual? I don't even know. I think the back must have been torn off or something. I'm not 100% sure though. But yeah. Anyways, now on to some familiar territory. We have the Lego games of Star Wars. First, starting off with Lego Star Wars, the video game. Now, I think this is probably like aged the worst out of all of the Lego Star Wars movies or Lego Star Wars games. Well, not even just that, but probably just like Lego games in general. This is probably easily the most bare bones, I think, Lego game in the whole series. Well, it was the first one, but yeah, even though it is pretty bare bones compared to the future ones and the later ones, I still really love this game. It's still a very fun game, and I do revisit it as well. But yeah, and it did have a very different vibe to what the later ones would have. So there's that too. But yeah, I'd still recommend picking this game up if you want to. But here's the disc. And now on to the sequel, which I think is even better. Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. And like I said, I think Lego Star Wars 2 is better than Lego Star Wars 1. They improved quite a bit from the first one. Like, first of all, there's obviously like stuff like the controls and different aspects of the gameplay. Like, for one, you actually get to build and ride vehicles, which in a game revolving around the Star Wars universe, I think that was a very much needed addition. And and this was also the first one where you could customize your own characters, which I don't play as custom characters very much, but it's still cool to create your little Lego OCs. But yeah, and I mean the drop in drop out co-op thing has always been in the Lego games, I think, but yeah, still, Lego Star Wars 2 is just a really solid game. Now, interestingly, this was also released on Xbox 360, which is, well, I think that is kind of cool how it's a cross generation game, but I don't really think I'd recommend getting the Lego Star Wars 2 on 360 because, well, this game, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. Yeah, this is probably either this or Battlefront 2 are my personal favorite Star Wars games. This one has so much freaking content. It is really fucking fun as a game. Basically, what you do is you combine Lego Star Wars 1 and you combine Lego Star Wars 2 and add even more content to them, upscale the graphics and stuff like that, and you get this beautiful game. But, yeah, one thing I did very much appreciate was its huge fucking character roster. I thought that was really fucking cool. And they also did change stuff like the pod racing level in this one. Because the pod racing level in Lego Star Wars 1 was, well, not a good one. It was pretty bad, actually. But the pod racing in this level is actually kind of fun, though. So, yeah, it not only is just a super fun game, but they even made some improvements. But, yeah, there was the disc. And now, on to the last game we have in this collection. We have Lego Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the Clone Wars DVDs, which I've been trying to get some of them because I really liked that show, but for now we just have this, and I think this game is actually kind of goes underrated, in my opinion, because I don't really see, well, I do see some people talk about this game, but this tends to be not the highest regarded Lego game necessarily, which sucks because I thought it was a really fucking fun one and a very entertaining game. For example, well, it obviously has the Lego gameplay, which has usually always been pretty solid, but it also contains a change that I think is very much appreciated, and that is most of the characters in this game, unlike in Complete Saga, there's not like a decent chunk of characters that can't even do anything. Like, I think nearly every character in this game, I guess you'd say, has a purpose. And yeah, I also appreciated the little like the Lego army battles, like the Clone Wars battles, like as you could tell by the screenshot, where you run around capturing bases. I thought that was kind of cool. And yeah, I also like this little addition where you have like two different scenarios at once in the level. I think that's a very cool little addition. But yeah, basically, just to sum it up, Lego Star Wars 3 is a really good game. I'd recommend getting it. But yeah, there's the disc and the manual, which we will obviously take out. Anyways, that's all I have to say for the games. Most of them are pretty great. Now, on to the familiar territory, which is the movies. And like I said, we're going to start this in release order instead of chronological order in the story, because, again, I feel like this will be a decent little change up. First, we have Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope. Now, I do kind of have an opinion change when it comes to this movie. On the DVD collection update, I think it was like the 11th or 12th one on my main channel, I said that I thought this was my least favorite of the original trilogy, and I thought Return of the Jedi was better. Well, after a recent rewatch of Episode 4, this is actually my second favorite of the original trilogy now, and it's probably like my third favorite Star Wars movie in general now. Like I said in that video, I didn't even think it was bad. I thought it was pretty great, but after rewatching this, I kind of just remembered how freaking good this movie actually is. Now, again, there are some aspects in this movie that I thought were not necessarily horrible or anything, but some of the stuff hasn't aged very well. Like, mainly the lightsaber fight with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. Now, granted, it was the first ever lightsaber fight in the franchise, so it's not always going to be the greatest one, but again, like, I think the context behind the battle was super good, and crap, if you actually go in to watching this after Episode 3, I think the context for it actually hits harder, and I think that's pretty cool, but I don't know, but the action in this movie and like pretty much the rest of it is pretty great. I highly recommend this movie. Now, I know most people on this fucking planet probably seen the original trilogy at this point, but yeah, again, if you haven't for some odd reason, I would recommend checking this out. And now on to what is, in my opinion, still probably my favorite of the original trilogy. And well, I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite Star Wars movie. There's a certain other one that still has that title, but yeah, we have The Empire Strikes Back, which is, again, this is a super fucking good movie. And I know this sounds kind of weird. I don't know if it does, but it's kind of funny how, in my opinion, like the best Star Wars movies are the one where like the Empire or the dark side or whatever you want to call them actually wins in the end, because we have Empire Strikes Back, which is one of my favorites, and we have an upcoming one which is also in my favorites. But yeah, here's, I think I've shown the batch for long enough. Now on to the actual disc. Unfortunately, these are not the limited editions, so I don't have the bonus disc that contains the original version of the movies, which I think if I'm going to get a limited edition, it's probably only going to be for Return of the Jedi, and I'll explain that in a minute. But yeah, here's the back of this one. And now, speaking of Return of the Jedi, we have Return of the Jedi. Now, again, pretty much every single movie in the original trilogy I really like. I just really think this is a well put together trilogy, but like I said, if I'm going to get a limited edition of any of the original trilogy movies, it's going to be for Return of the Jedi, because unfortunately this version of the movie that was released on DVD, it contains a lot of the changes that were from the special edition, which let's talk about the special editions for a minute. How about we? But yeah, controversial opinion, but I actually do not hate the special editions. Now, am I saying they're the most optimal ways to watch the movies? No, but I don't think they're bad, really, at all. And I think there were actually certain changes in episode 4 and 5 that really didn't actually alter the movie really badly at all. Like in episode 4, they have the scene where Han talking to Jabba. I thought that was a pretty great scene, actually. They gave a lot more context for like stuff that happens in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Now, again, they do spoil Jabba's appearance, so that kind of sucks. But I thought it was a cool scene, and in Episode 5, I like the changes where you actually get to see the Wampa. I thought that was pretty cool, and also some like other visual effects, like in Cloud City, where you can actually see the sky. But yeah, Episode 6, this contains like the most changes that I do not like. Mainly stuff like, well, the Jedi Rot song and the change of the Wub Nub, or whatever the frick you call that song. It was the one that was at the end of the Return of the Jedi. Now, I do like the piece at the end, but it sucks that they took out those two songs, because they were pretty good. But even with the changes, I still think Return of the Jedi is a great movie. And probably like my fourth favorite Star Wars movie in general. But yeah, there's the disc, and as usual, we're going to take a look at the insert. Fuck. Okay, we are done talking about the original trilogy. Now on to the, for the longest time, hated prequel trilogy. We have Episode 1 to start the things off. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily the most controversial opinion anymore, but I've always liked this trilogy. Like, even back when I was a huge, like, bandwagon kid and I pretty much just hated everything that a lot of other people hated, even back in that phase, I still really liked these movies. Now, Episode 1, okay, this could actually be controversial. I still think Episode 1 is the weakest of the prequel trilogy. Now, I know what some people might say. Oh, but Malachi, how do you think Attack of the Clones is better than this? Well, we'll explain that in a minute, but again, Episode 1 I still do like for stuff like, well, that's the pod racing, which was a very fun little scene. I thought that was cool. And there's obviously the last lightsaber fight with Darth Maul. I thought that was a really kick-ass fight, and not only was it just really well choreographed, but the context it had, or like the power it had, was very nice as well. But yeah, the things that okay, well, I might as well get the last thing out of the way. I also do like some of the actors' performances in this movie. mainly like Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor. I think they both did good jobs, but yeah, some of the things I didn't like about this movie were mainly just like some of the dialogue, and I know a lot of people hate on Jar Jar Binks, and fuck, I even said that I didn't like him in the DVD collection update that contained this movie, but Jar Jar Binks really isn't that bad in all reality, because I mean, he's like literally in this movie for less than 15 minutes, so again, he may not be like a great character, but he's not that bad. But yeah, I still like episode 1, like I said, but it's my least favorite of the main sets, or the original sets. Now, on to episode 2, which, okay, call me crazy all you want, but this is my 5th favorite movie in the franchise. Now, again, I know a lot of people surprisingly actually hate this movie more than they do episode 1, which in certain instances I can understand, but I think this movie gets quite a bit too much hate. Now, the reasons why I like this movie are, well, it kind of consists of some of the action performances again, like Ewan McGregor is even better in this than he was in the previous one. And again, another hot take, I actually liked Hayden Christensen's performance as Anakin in this movie. Now, do not get me wrong, I do think there were some pretty cringy lines in this one, but I think that he did actually do a pretty good performance as Anakin in this, mainly portraying stuff like Anakin's kind of descent in the madness and him turning over to the dark side. Like, this actually started in this movie, but yeah, and I also really love the scene where Anakin's holding his mother in his arms as she's dead and then slaughters all the sand people. I thought that was a really good moment of character development for him. And oh yeah, the lightsaber duels in this one are pretty great as well, like the Geonosis Arena fight and the fight between Yoda and Count Dooku. I think that was cool again, but again, even with like some of the other stuff that I didn't find all that great, like the Anakin and Padme scenes, I still thought that those did contain some pretty funny lines. Again, they weren't great, but it was at least somewhat entertaining in how funny some of the lines can be. Again, it's kind of ironically, but still. And oh yeah, I also liked the fight between Obi-Wan and Jango Fett. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, here's the insert. As you can tell, this is. And it also contains an inside, if I can keep it open for long enough, that is. Okay, there we go. But, yeah, there that is. And, crap, I kind of forgot there was actually an insert below this one. This advertises episode 1, which we just showed. But, yeah. And now, thankfully, we're on the last movie featured here, which is good for me because my phone and is kind of running low on battery. But here we have my second, in my opinion, the second best Star Wars movie and my personal favorite of the saga. We have Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. This movie is fucking great. Like, one thing that, like, crap, I think even some of the prequel haters that just really hate these movies, I think even some of those people can agree that Episode 3 was a pretty solid movie overall. Now I might as well give some more opinions on why I liked Episode 3 so much. Firstly, again, there's the performances by the people yet again. Ewan McGregor is at his best in this movie. I think he was really fucking good in this one. And Hayden Christensen did an even better job here with Anakin, especially, again, portraying his Anakin's descent into madness, and I thought that was like some of the most heartbreaking and also emotionally moving aspects of the Star Wars movies. And there's just so many fucking entertaining scenes in this one. Like, there's the opera house scene. Pretty much every lightsaber fight in this duel is pretty fucking good. Especially the last one between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Like, I know a lot of people talk about that one, but it's really hard not to because it was just a really fucking good fight. Still my favorite one in the franchise, not only in terms of context, but in also like cinematography and how it's choreographed. That shit was great. And yeah, and like usual throughout pretty much every Star Wars movie, the John Williams score was great as well. Oh yeah, and I also kind of forgot to talk about the guy who plays the Emperor across like episodes 5 to Episode 3, yeah, he does great in pretty much every one of these, portraying the Chancellor, but, Yeah, and again, this again, it's kind of ironic that some of the best movies in the franchise involve the dark side winning. But yeah, I love Episode 3. I think I've talked about it long enough. But here we have the first disc, which contains. Okay, I think this is actually the first time I point out the characters, but first disc contains Darth Vader, and disc 2 contains Yoda. But yeah, like usual, here is the insert. There's the front, the back, and the inside. I thought the case closed on itself. But yeah, that's going to do it for this DVD Star Wars DVD collection video. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Probably one of the most lengthy ones, just based on me talking about these movies alone. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and see you guys in the next one.